Welcome to Emergence Canada. My name's Steve Torso. I'm the founder and managing director of Wholesale Investor. This is the first time that we're going to be hosting Emergence Canada, and we're very excited about it. In fact, in February this year, we hosted our Australian version of this, and we had up to 2,000 attendees join us across 3 days in hosting this session. Now, to give you some understanding, everything that we do with Wholesale Investor is about creating opportunities for tomorrow. So every conversation we have, every email we send, even hosting this as a virtual session is for us, it's about creating an opportunity which doesn't exist. And as part of that, I'd like to say a big thank you to our partner in bringing this to you, IMP Capital. The team between Jessica, Jackie, and Stephen have been phenomenal to work with, and we love that we can fulfill our mission in helping create these opportunities between, as I said, Australia, Singapore, and also Canada. And if you want to understand the whole reason we started, the actual definition of emergence is about bringing into visibility what was previously concealed. So everything that we want to do is about placing a spotlight on the ecosystem. What is amazing about this whole area, whether it be the emerging company, the venture scene, is that there's a lot of great people doing a lot of great work, and often it's siloed and often it's fragmented, so people don't get to see those activities. So what this is about bringing that all together from a company and innovator's perspective, to an investor's perspective, to an angel's perspective, and also from a government perspective, because each one of us have our role in this ecosystem. Each one of us play a valuable role. And the reality is, all of us wake up every single day trying to add value and looking to make a difference. So Emergence Canada is really about being a platform for that to happen. It's a platform for innovation, it's a platform for investment, and it's a platform for connection. Most importantly, it's a platform for conversation as well. So during the session, we want you to engage, we want you to interact, we want you to communicate with the speakers, with myself, and also with the other presenters, because it's such a powerful opportunity for us to bring together an ecosystem that in the last few months has experienced something that none of us expected. But what's beautiful about this is me being able to provide this presentation to you from Australia, and also the starting of a conversation between Australia and Canada about how we can collaborate going further. And to me, that is one of the greatest benefits we can all add to each other, is in how we actually collaborate. And the question we asked at the start of this is, what if collaboration was enabled? What if partnership was enabled? And this, whilst relationships take time, it takes trust, it takes momentum to build, there's always a starting point. And from our perspective as founders, we always know the one thing, that one conversation can change the entire trajectory of our businesses. Even though we need to have 100 conversations to get that one, we know that that one conversation can make a massive difference. So the question is what if collaboration was enabled? And from us, we've built a growing ecosystem now that has actually just over 30,000 high net worth and professional investors across Australasia. And in our companies list, we've got over 13,000 companies that we communicate with. So for us, we're very passionate about this ecosystem, been working with it for over 11 years, and now is the time of how we can actually collaborate with you. And going from this, I want to encourage that cross-border collaboration. So thank you again to Stephen, to Jessica, and also to Jackie and the whole team at IMP Capital. We are very happy to bring everyone that's watching today Emergence Canada. We look forward to collaborating, and obviously our real ambition is how can we actually do this live and work with you to build a greater collaboration between Australia, Canada, and also Singapore. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the presentations and the panel sessions throughout today.
Hi, I'm Jessica Wang, partner at IMP Capital. Welcome to Emergence Canada 2020. An event created to share ideas and inspirations by, with, and for the emerging companies. So far, the year 2020 has undoubtedly been one of the most challenging times many of us have experienced, and it has hugely impacted the startup innovation community, just like many others. So we're putting together this event with the purpose of providing an extra channel to help high-tech entrepreneurs share their stories on how to survive and thrive, how to continue to raise capital, and to connect all parties involved in this innovation ecosystem that's important to Canada's overall economic recovery. As you will find out throughout the speeches, there are some very positive messages and opportunities for our fellow entrepreneurs, innovators, and investors as well. Emergence Canada is our gift and service to the ecosystem which we're proud to be a part of and contribute to. So enjoy the conference. We hope you'll find value for your own business.
Thank you, Steve and Jessica. My name is Andrew Robinson with INP Capital. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce our first speaker, the Honourable Joyce Murray, Member of Parliament for Vancouver Quadra and Minister for Digital Government. Following a highly successful 25-year career building an international reforestation company and 4 years in the provincial cabinet of the BC Liberal government, the Honourable Joyce Murray was appointed the Minister of Digital Government in November of 2019. The Member of Parliament for Vancouver Quadra since 2008, Joyce served as the Parliamentary Secretary to the President of the Treasury Board following the 2015 general election, where she championed and helped lead the development of the Centre for Greening Government. Making a federal government operations more environmentally friendly and efficient was a natural project for Joyce, whose entrepreneurial spirit was reinforced by building a company that has planted almost 1.5 billion trees, 500,000 of those planted by Joyce herself. In 2019, Joyce was appointed the President of the Treasury Board and Minister of Digital Government. She received the Simon Fraser University's Dean Medal as a top MBA graduate in 1992, was the chair of the board at Brinkman and Associates Reforestation, and served as British Columbia's Environment Minister and Minister of Management Services in Gordon Campbell's cabinet from 2001 to 2005. Joyce has always been a thought leader, driving progressive new policies in government, whether advocating for strong, smart environmental measures or being an early advocate of the legalization and regulation of cannabis. Joyce's ability to envision and deliver on bold new ideas comes from her in-depth experience in politics and business. She is passionate about investing in a fairer, greener economy that empowers future generations and confident that digital innovation will offer important opportunities for improving services to Canadians. I give you the Honourable Joyce Murray.
Hello, my name is Joyce Murray. I'm the Member of Parliament for Vancouver Quadra and the Federal Minister of Digital Government. And I'm really pleased to join you from my home on the unceded territories of the Musqueam First Nations. I hope you're staying safe and healthy during these difficult times. Thank you, Jessica Wang, for inviting me to address this conference. As a Minister of Digital Government, I am committed to accelerate the transition to a more digitally enabled government. And a key part of that transition will be harnessing what you, private sector innovators, do, because we will need new ways forward to address our challenges as we move forward. Before COVID-19, Prime Minister Trudeau challenged me with a bold, ambitious goal. And that's to overcome the federal government's long-time systemic barriers to the modern internet era so that we can serve Canadians better. And I am lucky to be supported by incredible teams at the Canadian Digital Service, the Office of the Chief Information Officer, and Shared Services Canada. Now, normally they work in the background, but COVID-19 has certainly shone a light on the essential work of these teams as they helped enable the entire public service to serve Canadians while working remotely and collaboratively from home. We've seen during this crisis how so many Canadians depend on digital services in order to function, whether it's remote work or staying in touch with family and friends or buying groceries without leaving home. Without technology, these activities would have been drastically and in some cases tragically different. Canadians have also seen the government act quickly to serve them during this time. They've seen what we're capable of with the fast and effective delivery of the CERB benefit, for example. So there's no longer any going back to our former slow incremental digital progress. In fact, the need to change is urgent. The federal government still has big old monolithic mainframe systems that make it difficult to do our jobs, much less enable us to serve Canadians as they expect in this digital era. Now, I'm certain that some of the participants of Emergence 2020 know people who've been frustrated trying to deal with taxes or immigration or visa issues or getting signed up for benefits or other transactions with our government. So, by the way, please contact your local MP's office. Their staff are trained to help navigate just those kinds of roadblocks. But imagine how the most vulnerable in our society might struggle to access benefits or critically needed services. So fixing this is an equity issue, every bit as much as a service solution. Service roadblocks are certainly not the fault of public servants, nor politicians, nor anyone in particular. It's the outdated systems and processes right across most federal departments. But when Canadians can plan and book a trip around the world, do their banking and shop from their couches using a smartphone, it's simply unacceptable that to renew a passport, they still have to print the document out, fill it in, fax or mail it, or show up and line up in person. So the more frustrated they feel from dealing with federal government bureaucracy, the less they trust and engage with us. It's my challenge to find ways we can do better. My plan is to create a digital backbone for the federal government by building the fundamentals that are the basis for digital service delivery. And in order to do this, we also need to create a roadmap for changing the government's entrenched vertical silos of accountability, authority, decision-making. You know, no country in the world has been able to start enjoying the economic benefits of a digitally and data integrated government without first building their digital backbone. This challenge will require us to work in 4 specific areas of focus. Firstly, fixing our monolithic and aging applications in a way that ensures the replacement doesn't become yet another monolithic and aging application sometime down the road. Second area of focus is offering digital government services for Canadians that are secure, reliable, easy to use, and easy to find online. The Canadian Digital Service, for example, recently built an app to help Canadians easily find all the COVID-19 benefits they qualify for, no matter what department delivers them. And CDS is also leading the technical work of creating the National COVID Exposure Notification app that our Prime Minister announced just last week. The third area of focus is developing a national digital ID so that logging on to a government website is a one-step process for all federal services. No wrong door to connect with the federal government, in other words. This work's already started, and it was demonstrated when Albertans were able to use their digital ID to log in to get the CERB. I also aim to accelerate the work we're doing to build the core services technology platforms to bridge departments so that information and data are consistently collected and shared in real time. The fourth area of focus is critical for all the other areas of work to succeed, and that is transforming the ingrained siloed institutional culture in our federal government departments. Now, this means bringing in digitally savvy talent with fresh ideas, incorporating digital principles into new projects right from the get-go, and implementing a range of other types of changes. And it also means having talented and knowledgeable people like you at the table. So what will this transformation look like, practically speaking? It involves moving from complicated and confusing paper-based services to digital services that are secure, reliable, and easy to use from any device you choose. It means monolithic systems that are impossible to update, being transitioned to smaller, modular, and interoperable systems that can be changed and adapted as needed. Instead of each department developing their own custom programs and systems, which of course makes collaboration and data sharing almost impossible, We will expect departments to work together, finding solutions to common challenges, implementable across departments. Well, that's what platform government is all about. So, the transformation to digital government is an enormous hill to climb, one that calls for optimism, a holistic approach, and relentless persistence, which I'm good at. Our success will hinge on our ability to work horizontally across government to introduce innovation and new ways of thinking, and we will be looking to the private sector for help with this. Innovation in Canada, you have a critical role in Canada's economic recovery by seizing the new opportunities that are emerging. We will need your help, your ideas, and your talent. Now we've all seen what is possible, and now is the moment to act. I look forward to your contributions to this adventure. Thank you. Merci.
Hi guys, this is Lynn. I'm the Regional Director of IMP Capital. Very happy to be with all of you guys here today. And thanks Mr. Murray for those great insights. Next up, we have Sandi Gilbert. Sandi is involved with several ventures focused on supporting entrepreneurs as they navigate through startup to scale up. She's also the founder of Crowd Capital, a fintech company behind DealPoint. She leads Intergen Connect as well, a non-for-profit that matches expert retired and transitioning business talent with scaling companies exiting the startup phase. Sandi is also the chair of NACO, Canada's community of angels, incubators, and accelerators. Welcome, Sandi.
Welcome. I'm Sandi Gilbert, and I wear multiple hats in this innovation ecosystem that we live in Canada. I'm an entrepreneur. I have a fintech platform called DealPoint that facilitates private capital investing. I'm the board chair of NACO, which is the angel capital organization in Canada, which is obviously focused on early stage investment into ambitious entrepreneurs. And I'm also the CEO and the managing partner of Intergen, which is a platform that matches senior executives with young entrepreneurs and an angel fund that invests in post-seed, pre-Series A capital. So I kind of come from it at all different aspects, and I'm happy to be here today. So let's take a look at Canada at a glance. Really, the early stage ecosystem in Canada really is supported heavily by angels. So angels are the people that will fund early stage companies. They usually come in somewhere after friends and family, kind of seed money up to that post-seed money, helping companies get to the stage where they can access more institutional capital or venture capital. If you look at where we are in Canada, you can see that the majority of the investments that happen in the angel space happen in central Canada. So that's in Ontario and Quebec, with a strong showing obviously in Western Canada and good activity in Atlantic Canada. Angels don't usually invest alone. So early on they may be doing that, but you can see from this slide that the syndication of angel investments usually happens in collaboration with other partners. And we clearly are seeing that happen more and more these days. I can tell you that in 2018, angels deployed over $142 million into early stage companies in Canada. So clearly are at the really forefront of helping companies get a start. Where is the angel playground? I talked a little bit about that. If you look at the life continuum of a company, ideation is in the very early stage, and we see that governments and incubators, friends and family, crowdfunding, accelerators can help get a company through proof of concept. But once you get into the actual validation of that product in the market, that's really where angels and angel groups and angel funds come into play, prior to that growth and scale-up stage where we see larger rounds of capital raised with venture capital and ultimately with M&A and IPOs. So I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about the trends that are going on in the space. You know, traditionally in Canada, as the angel community grew up, we had kind of angel groups concentrated in their own region. So for any of you entrepreneurs out there, you know that you might have met with Vantech in Vancouver or with CAN in Ottawa, but we're now seeing that there's more collaboration happening in the space, and angel groups are reaching out across the country to collaborate with other groups and really facilitate rounds outside of their community now. So clearly my trend one in the angel space would be that collaboration is big. Secondly, I would say that syndication is really big now. We have more angels that are writing smaller checks, which means that we, have multiple angels coming into a round. And to solve the problem of not having a whole bunch of investors on your cap table at an early stage, syndication is happening. That's where DealPoint comes in. Our syndication platform can help a lead investor syndicate a group of people that they have into a special purpose vehicle, make the investment into the company, and then, as I say, have one line on the cap table that then is the lead angel is managing that investment. So syndication is my second trend that I would say is happening in the space today. The third trend, without a doubt, is new models and new investors. The angel space has changed from being just a bunch of old white guys investing in companies. We now see new models emerging. In Calgary, we have the 51 Investment Collective, which are a bunch of female executives that are saying, we want to invest in female entrepreneurs. They've just announced a partnership with another fund in Atlantic Canada, doing the same thing, female investors investing in female-led initiatives. And of course, we know that the Business Development Bank, BDC, has the Women in Tech Fund that oftentimes can collaborate in these investments. So things are changing. It's not just the typical go to a forum, pitch your deal, have a few people get interested. We're seeing many, many, many new models and new approaches to allow new investors into the space. My fourth trend that I would say is happening right now really are angel funds. So this is a way for investors that haven't yet invested directly into a company to start to say, I really want to spend some of my portfolio in my own community and things that I care about, but I don't want to actually do a direct investment into that company. So we see new models emerging. Archangel in the Kitchener-Waterloo area, Halo Health in Toronto, focused on health, AIoT Health in Calgary, focused on that, and Intergen, my own fund, really is focused on prominent Calgarians that want to invest back into the Calgary marketplace. So we're seeing angel funds emerging as that bridge between the stage where individual investors can help, but really pre-major venture capital coming into the space. So everyone's talking about COVID-19. What in the world does COVID-19 mean for us? As we've all been in our work from home models, we're seeing that companies are saying, wow, do we really need to go back to the office? When will we go to the office? What companies are thriving through COVID and what companies are not? If we look at the angel space in particular, I think the first thing that happened initially was that all of the angel investors said, let's look within our own portfolio. Let's see our companies that might need help through this space. Let's close our wallets to new investments. And let's help the companies that we know need our help at this time. And I would say that probably took, kind of 4 to 8 weeks for, angels and angel funds to really kind of understand where the needs were within their own portfolio. But then they said, you know what? There's opportunity out there. And lots of companies were built out of downturns in markets, new opportunities that forced adoption happened with COVID-19 as an example. So I always like to talk about our Born in Canada companies. And if you look at Slack and Shopify, companies that we know, Wave, Wattpad, of course, one of our originals being BlackBerry, companies that were born in Canada oftentimes came out of difficult times in the economy, but opportunities nonetheless for people to connect. So I really say that, COVID has forced some companies to rethink their models. Some companies obviously are challenged right now in figuring out how their product can fit within this new era. But I'm telling you, it's also provided lots of opportunity, and there are investment dollars available for companies that are taking advantage of our new normal. So I always want to leave with some helpful hints, and my space really is in scaling companies. So for us at Intergen, we're focused on companies that are generating, $1 million a year in ARR, that have a product market fit and are going to use their capital to actually really gain some market share. And what I always say to companies at this stage is I say, think big. Scaling a company does not happen by accident. You really have to say, how can I get bigger? How can I get there? How can I scale my model to actually take advantage of a global opportunity? And you need to prepare to do that, because you know what? Getting big is hard. You need to have processes in place. You need to delegate. You need to figure out how you can continue to really support your customers and make them happy and make them want to buy your product. But that means you kind of got to think like a real business. You can't just wing it anymore. And the other thing in scaling is that it's a team sport. Really, you need to create a culture that's going to attract the best of the best. So remember that diverse teams are important. In Intergen, we focus on intergenerational teams. Where does that experience help that ambition? If I'm a tech person, how am I going to find somebody that can help me with sales? Always think about building a team that literally has the things that you don't have, so you can round out your offering and actually build a successful business. And never lose sight of the customer. I always say customers first. So delighted customers are really the key to scaling a business. So focus on treating your customers with the best of care. And that's where I think that you're going to succeed. So I'm going to leave you with that today. And I'm happy to stick around and answer any questions that you may have. Please, there's a YouTube channel that I think some of you are listening through, and you can send some questions that way, and I'm more than pleased to answer them. So thanks again. Have a great day.
Thank you, Sandi. Next up, we have Thealzel Lee. For over 30 years, Thealzel has worked as an entrepreneur, angel investor, and business strategy advisor to companies with a focus on strategy development and operational alignment. She manages the monthly Vancouver Angel Technology Network and the Vancouver chapter of the Keiretsu Forum for the local startup community of entrepreneurs and angel investors. She also serves on committees with the National Angel Capital Organization in Canada and the Angel Capital Association in the US. Thealzel is co-founder and director of angel investment funds Nelsa Investment, Inc., and the Vantech Entrepreneurs Fund, Inc., doing business as eFund, and the Timia Capital Corporation, which provide equity and non-equity investments to those entrepreneurs. Thealzel also successfully managed operations for the World Food Program as head of refugee feeding program in Malawi in the early 90s, and worked with women-led sustainable businesses with the United Nations Development Program in Zimbabwe. As you can see, Thealzel is active in philanthropy, currently serving as the national chair for the Learning Disabilities Association of Canada. She lives in Vancouver with her 3 grown sons, who are working as a game designer, electrical, mechanical engineer, and as a CPA. Thealzel holds a Bachelor of Science degree in microbiology from the University of Alberta and a Master's of Business Administration from the Richard Ivey School of Business at the University of Western Ontario. Thealzel, take it away.
Hello, everyone. My name is Thealzel Lee, and I'm talking to you from Vancouver, Canada. I'm here to tell you about early stage investing in a post-COVID world. I hope by the end of this presentation, we'll all have a better understanding of the kind of mindsets we can have to adopt for our investing and also some pitfalls to avoid. So just a little bit more about myself and where I'm coming from. I run the Vantech Angel Network. It's an angel group that's been meeting every single month since 1999, where angel investors are viewing entrepreneurial investment ventures that are pitched to them at these monthly meetings. And the members of Vantech are angel investors that might be individuals, and they are also funds. And one of these funds is a fund that I founded. It's called eFund. And this investment fund was established in 2011 to pool the investment capital to make investments in these early stage entrepreneurs. So what are angel investments? So here's some statistics comparing what it's like between Canada and the United States. The US is 10 times the population of Canada, so it's their investments are pretty much reflective of that. Each year, over $1 billion is invested by American angel investors, and the median check size for them is about $850,000 US. And their top sectors are life, health sciences, and ICT. Canada, we're a smaller population. We have less money to invest. And our median check size is also smaller at $250,000. And we also have the same top sectors, life sciences, ICT, and we're also very big on clean tech. So let me tell you about the investment continuum of where we invest. Angel investors like to invest when the problem market fit has been determined, and we are investing in the entrepreneurial venture to help them create a repeatable business model. Venture capital and private equity come in a little bit later. So here's our sweet spot. Like I said in the previous slide, when we invest in entrepreneurs, we're helping their business model become robust. Venture capital, which uses institutional sources, invests in entrepreneurs to scale them. And that's what they're very good at. So no doubt that we've all seen a lot of TV and film where pop culture continues to glamorize startups. It's a lot harder than it looks on TV and film, because we conveniently forget that most of these startup companies fail. So here's a distribution of returns. We always depend on that 1 in 10 that will make up for the rest of the companies in the portfolio. So this is what investors look for in the pre-COVID world. So we're asking the entrepreneurs, why do you think you'll win? So they have to explain to us the market opportunity. What problem are they trying to solve? And how is their product and service going to solve this problem? And that's a very key point. We want to see that they can show a real customer pain that can be solved. We do not invest in ideas. It's even riskier. We'd like to see some market traction where the entrepreneur has shown that real customers are using their solution to solve their very real problem, and that they have some sort of competitive advantage over other solutions in the marketplace. And the management team is not just the CEO and his co-founders, but also the people that are surrounded by the management team that have done this before, that has the right strategy and execution record to deliver on a successful venture. So when we see that from the entrepreneurs, we're asking them, what do you need from us, the investors, to succeed? Is it our money? For how much? For what purpose? Our networks? For who? For what purpose? Because at the early stage, it's more than just money that these entrepreneurs require. And most important, what is the return on investment and when? We are not philanthropists, although we can appear that way when we invest in these early stage entrepreneurs. So when we're looking at an entrepreneur, we're looking at their investment readiness, that they have a product market fit, they have a strategy to sell that product to the customers, and they've got the operational infrastructure to support that. So what is the COVID pandemic has impact on the COVID, on the investment? What should early stage investors be looking for? So I'm going to spend the rest of my time here telling just that. So the immediate impact of the COVID, we've seen the news where up to a third of the world's population have someone close to them whose health has been impacted by COVID. Millions have been left without jobs as we shut down the economy so that we could self-isolate ourselves during this pandemic period. And because of this self-isolation, a good significant number of people are saying they are experiencing anxiety from being confined to their house. Social isolation is most prevalent in the younger adult set of 18 to 24. And surprisingly, seniors 65 and over are the least anxious group. So let's take a look at past pandemics' impact on society. We've all heard of Black Death. They killed about 25 to 30 million people in the Middle Ages. But on the bright side, if there is a bright side, it ended feudalism and ushered in the Enlightenment era. More recently, at the turn of the 20th century, the Spanish flu killed between 50 to 100 million lives, which represented 2.5% of the global population. And from that experience in 1918, it became more apparent to everywhere, governments and societies around the world, that healthcare access and international coordination of public health was very important. And it's not just pandemics, other major world events. World War II saw the influx of female participation in the workforce, followed by the baby boom. And a lot of the social and legal barriers that we have witnessed have started to begin to reduce. And given the riots and protests that we see right now for Black Lives Matter, we still have a long way to go, but this trajectory started not that long ago, middle of the 20th century. And 9/11 changed our mindset, then shifted societal attitudes about the trade-off between security and privacy. So lesson number 1, crisis presents opportunity. So how worried are the VCs and founders today about what the pandemic means? Well, since this survey was taken in May, not so much. In fact, the funding hasn't changed all that much. It was just a little bit of a blip. And had a little bit of fun by reading a lot of articles on and interviewing various famous futurists. There are 6 areas that will be changed, and according to them, and for the better. So lesson number 2 is that humans are resilient social animals. So post-pandemic expectations, this pandemic has exposed societal inequities. And so going forward, we will be seeing more of harnessing of the capitalism plus technology plus social responsibility, because it's a matter of trust. The famous Edelman's Trust Barometer that's been in operation for 20 years has shown that there's less trust as societal inequities has increased. So are we going to do anything about that? Hopefully, yes. Post-COVID trends to watch. There are some trends that were happening pre-COVID. They're going to speed up. And equitable access to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, of food, clothing, and shelter, will also be very important. So sectors to watch post-COVID are playing on those 2 trends. Healthcare, education, you can certainly see some big impact of COVID on those two sectors, including services, entertainment, and leisure, as we reimagine how those will be delivered. And then we have platform technologies in the data and network security, digital infrastructure, and Internet of Things. So post-COVID, what will investors seek? Why do you think we'll win? Looking at market opportunity, customer pain that can be solved, competitive advantage, a management team, and strategy with strategy and execution. What do you need from the investors? And most important, what is the return on investment and when? So lesson number 3, good businesses will always attract investment. And remember, it does take a long time to get to real liquidity in a portfolio of early stage venture investments. It takes a while. We're playing a long game when we're investing early. If you need more information, here's my contact. Thank you very much.
All right, and now we have Martin, a CEO and co-founder of ApplyBoard, joining us. Driven by his belief that education is a right and not a privilege, Martin approaches every business decision with a student-first mentality. Since launching ApplyBoard in 2015 with his brothers Mehdi and Messi, Martin has led the company to become the world's largest online platform for international student recruitment, assisting more than 100,000 students with their educational journey to study in Canada, the US, and the UK. Under Martin's leadership, ApplyBoard was named Canada's fastest growing technology company by Deloitte in 2019 after only 4 years in business, ranking number 1 on the Fast 50 list. Now welcome, Martin.
Hi everyone, my name is Martin Basiri. I'm CEO and co-founder of ApplyBoard. ApplyBoard is a platform for international students from all over the world to be able to apply, to find and apply to the best programs of their dream in Canadian, American, and British schools. We are 5 years old, so exactly May 2015, we started our company. And we are around like 120 people in over 20 countries right now, with headquarters in Kitchener, Ontario. The way that we started the company came from our personal experience. Me and my brothers, who started the company a couple of years earlier than that, in 2010 and 2011, we came to Canada as an international students. And we faced a lot of problems. It almost took around a year and a half to find a school, to see what are the documents we need to prepare for our application, to apply for the visa, to wait for it. And the process was not only very costly, it was also very time consuming and very stressful. The worst part about it, we didn't know if we are doing the correct, and the confidence of us was low. But since that decision was so important for our life, so it's not only like we were kind of going to college, we were choosing what we want to study, we were choosing the country that we are going to, we are choosing the city and the school that we are going to. And imagine you're going somewhere and none of us could even speak English fluently before we came. So we done that in 2010 and 11, and after that we helped a couple of other people to do so. But in 2015, we joined forces and we said, you know what, let's solve this problem for the future students. So other students, if they want to go, they don't have the same problem that we have. And that's how ApplyBoard started. Basically, the company started in May 2015. We actually started from there is an incubator called Velocity, which belong to University of Waterloo. And for the first year, they gave us free office, and we started using that as a free service. And then we went to our own office. By end of the year 2, we were almost 12 people. And by the year 3, we were 30-ish people. Year 4, we were 200-ish people. And then year 5, we were about 500 people. during these years, I learned a lot, and my brothers learned a lot. The most important thing was like how to solve different problems and how to be able to like stay on top of the problems when things happen. Yeah, it was very, very useful. It's like I was always thinking of going to school for MBA because I'm an engineer and I studied electrical and mechatronics for my bachelor and master's. I was always thinking of going to school for MBA, but what happened with Apply Board, it was better than MBA for me. It was, I learned how to do business and everything else, and it was very, very joyful. During these years, we raised somewhere around like 175 million Canadian dollar in multiple rounds, in angel round, series A, B, and C. And the last round that we did was we raised a little over 100 million Canadian dollar, which made our company officially a unicorn. But why I brought up the fundraising is because that fundraising happened during February and March. So during the February, I had like a initial meetings with the investors, and during the March, that it was a very uncertain time, we managed to close the round. And it wouldn't be possible if we didn't have a good strategy, but also we didn't have good investors who supported us. I'm so proud that our current investors supported the company very well, and they supported me very well, and they participated, and also they were very good emotional help for us. And also the new investor that we found, Drive Capital, they're very long-term thinkers, and they believed in the business. They knew us for around a year, and they knew that whatever happens, we can manage it. And everyone stayed, and with a lot of ups and downs and other investors involved, we managed to close the round. And the experience that I got from this, it's very valuable. I don't think I ever went through any harsher point of my life to do a task under that much of uncertainty. And I think the way that the whole thing happened was very good. And if I go back, I would never change my experience, because now I have that experience, and I have a thicker skin for the future problem and challenges that comes through. If I want to like bring one point of view that I learned as an entrepreneur that I thought that would be interesting for you, is how much you have to always think ahead. One of the best things that happened was before COVID-19, we always managed our cash not by a nominal of 12 to 18 months burn rate. We always managed by our cash by an extended amount of time. So when COVID happened and the uncertainty was, and if you remember, everyone during the March has started to doing layoffs, we had enough cash reserve for a couple of years that we didn't have to immediately go to a mode of right away we have to react because of the cash position. And after the fundraising, our company even got stronger from that point of view, and we actually hired over 100 people during that time, since like 3 months ago that we are working from home, which was an amazing experience of onboarding employees, and all the company worked from home, employees safe and happy, and that was such a valuable thing for us to learn. What I learned is stay on top of it and always think a little ahead. I couldn't predict a pandemic like this happen, so that's not what I'm saying. But I was always like thinking of something may happen that I need a little bit more cash, and I think that was the best result I got because of that prior thoughts we had. and it paid off well, because it also gave us the power during the fundraising to not shake, to not lose our side, stay focused, stay on our company, and do the fundraising at the side, which that confidence also gave the comfort to all investors that this is a solid company for a couple of years to be investing, because we were very well cash managed and we were very efficient with our cash. And that was what I wanted to share with you. I hope wherever you guys are happy, healthy, safe, and you're enjoying what you are doing in your life.
Thank you, Martin. Next, we have Daniel Zhang, CEO of Euclidean. Daniel had a vision to build smart visual applications in a 3D digital twin of the world, and since, he's led Euclidean to build the most powerful 3D engine for data visualization and streaming. Euclidean is a cutting-edge 3D data technology company. Partnering with global leaders, it has evolved into a world leader in 3D data visualization and management, providing innovative solutions to customers, supplying the world's largest digital Earth datasets. The technology is broadly used by thousands of companies in over 350 cities worldwide and is well recognized by industrial leading companies. Daniel has a proven 20-year record as a strategic thinker. He joined Euclidean to set up their China operation in 2015 and subsequently became CEO in 2018. Prior to his work with Euclidean, Daniel was a multi-entrepreneur with experience in advertising, TV channel operation, internet technology, and e-commerce. Daniel worked for Procter & Gamble in China for 4 years as assistant finance manager before taking on the role of media manager, where he oversaw the largest advertising budget in the country. Daniel has a bachelor degree of commerce as well as a degree in computer science from Nanjing University. Daniel has an executive MBA from the China Europe International Business School. Daniel.
Hi, I'm Daniel Zhang from Euclidean. And Euclidean is a 3D data technology company. And we had been first mover in the market for handling massive 3D data. So we all love big data. Nowadays, the big data can be a problem for data too big and people struggling of processing petabytes of data with their existing hardwares. So we are focusing on helping the customers processing 3D data in terabyte or petabyte size on an ordinary computer or even mobile phone within a second. And we had been helping our customers in managing large size of assets or infrastructure in a digital twin environment with the possibility of integrating IoT information. So our customer included many in the transportation industry, like railway, main roads, or airports, and the government sector, like Singapore government for emergency response, or military usage for like navies, they use underground tracking and IoT integration, and smart facility applications, like Siemens use that for their application for smart facility. And Euclidean also supply valuable data solution. We now supply over 100 petabyte or 1 million gigabyte size of 3D data, which potentially is the largest digital twin data in the world at this moment. And this data includes the global surface or under mining or underground or underwater, and with a good combination from laser scanning or photogrammetry or satellite imagery or designing models. And this formed a very good foundation for digital twin application when people want to do smart applications with IoT. And on top of providing this data, and we also supply AI tools in the market to help our customers to improve the quality of the data. And more importantly, most all of this job will be automatically done, and then we targeting to reduce more than 90% of the manual job to increase the productivity. And to be simple, we are helping the data collection side of the world to connect with the data application side. In a simple word is we make the data people created to be more valuable or be useful for the applications. And so these technologies have been very well recognized by many industrial leaders. So we're quite proud that we signed many partnerships with industrial leaders, including like Leica Geosystem, the laser scanning company, X-ray, the GIS company, Autodesk, the modeling and designing company, Alibaba Cloud for smart city, and Siemens for the smart facility management, Microsoft Azure for the digital twin, and Unity for simulations, and Hong Kong Telecom for the Hong Kong government digital twin platform. And we have been very strongly supported by our customers. And for example, the SNCF, Dutch Bank, lots of railway customers, and then in Queensland, the government, TMR, and Hong Kong Airport, and military customers like Thales or Boeing or US Navy, quite a lot of other big names, and mining companies, and also many smart city applications. We had more than 100 universities also using our software. So currently we are serving more than 1,000 companies among 350 cities in the world and cover most of the region. And to be simple as a summary, that the Euclidean provide the disruptive technology and also the largest digital twin data set in the world. And also we supply the smart solution for people who want to have a connection with IoT information in the digital twin. And more importantly, we are quite well recognized by many important customers. So talking about the COVID-19 impacts to us, we had the same difficulties as others at the beginning. So we have a Chinese branch office, actually 2 offices in China. So we were among probably the most bunch of the early stage of the bunch of companies that were affected by the coronavirus, and when people had no idea what happened. And at that time, all the customers stopped the purchasing activity during the first 2 months lockdown, and we canceled all trade shows across the world, and they canceled all those visits to customers. So all the same difficulties as many others. And also particularly we have staff who lived in Wuhan area, and we have staff at international travels in January and February. So that caused lots of health concerns at that time. So it was a big challenge. And however, we have taken a couple of interesting or very helpful actions. First of all, we protect the staff health as our highest priority, as they are our most important asset. So for example, in China office, we actually extend the Chinese New Year holiday, which was announced 2 days before the China government extend the holiday for the nation. And in Australia office, we initiated the work from home plan, which was 2 weeks before the government having lockdown decision. And then when we protect our staff and we start to recruit more talents during this period of time, we received much more applications than past. And while many companies are doing redundancy, so we're using this opportunity to actually increase our team. And we kept a very well productivity. So because we had the early experiences for China branch office, so we were quite well prepared for work from home for other offices. And people reported that they actually more works have been done during the lockdown. We were quite proud about their progress. And we launched more digital marketing campaigns, particularly in the railway and mining industry who heavily rely on the data. And people are spending more time on screens. So the effectiveness of digital marketing was better than normal. And for example, for the railway campaign, we received over 150 railway customers from the world to contact us. contact us for our new solution. And we definitely also leverage the most from the government support to reduce our cost. So we managed to reduce our cost by about 30%, benefiting from these government programs like JobKeeper program in Australia and rental relief and digital business support. And more importantly, then by reducing the cost and also try to generate more cash flow to making sure the company is healthy and strong. So we actually made it more bulk deals to receive more upfront payments from our customers and distributors in the market. So we had taken these actions to making sure the company growing while many people are suffering. So, and but we actually saw more opportunities than challenge or threaten to us. And the biggest advantage we found was the attitude for people towards digitalization changed over the night. And in the past 3 months, we received many new requests or orders from customers to asking for support of digital chain management or application. Those companies, including many big companies like BHP or Dutch Bank or US Navy, Australian Navy, or many local governments. And some projects are now fully depends on the simulation or visualization. So we spent years in the past to try to convince the market, educate the market to move to the digital chain management. And now we save that energy and people all recognize the importance, and we just can focus on how to provide a better service. So which is a very good opportunity for us. And also the demand of shared geospatial data set has been dramatically increased. And early this month, on 3rd June, the Intergeo hosted a virtual roundtable among experts to discuss the recent industrial trends in geospatial industry. And those experts from Hexagon, Autodesk, or Trimble, they all stressed that the reality must now shift to a shared database. And Euclidean was born for helping people to share their large size of data. And so it's a great opportunity for us as well. And also we benefit from many governments, they're launching incentive programs for the economic growth. For example, in China market, they launched the new infrastructure building plans, which is very different from the traditional the road development or bridge developments, rather than 5G or high-speed train and digitalized things. So everything are all related with more digitalized technology. So which gave us lots of opportunity as well. We were recently being frequently interviewed by the media in the market, talking about how we fit into these new campaigns. And so we actually made some modification on our strategy and all the plans. And we put the market share as a higher priority than the short-term revenue growth. And because the opportunity comes, and we see it's a best opportunity for us to seek the market leader position, making our software the most popular data visualization and streaming software in the world. So we actually prepared a free version of the product, which is going to be released in July. And we polished all those features to making sure it can better serve the market. So we're quite excited to see the new changes and all those changes we made for adapting to the new era of the digitalization world. And we're going to have a new fundraising to support a faster expansion as well. So that's some new plans. And we have kept some principles of ourselves or a good recommendation for any other friends. So we always keep the first mover position if possible. So we always try to act before the followers start. And when the opportunity comes, we act very aggressively, try to keep the competitive advantage and try to serve better in the market. And we have always been customer oriented. We create the value for the customers with good products, and we believe the result will be good for itself. Yeah, thank you. That's a very brief introduction. Thank you for your time.
Great, thanks Daniel. And now I would like to invite Naheed to join us. Naheed is co-founder and the president and CEO of Cyclica, a Toronto-based venture-backed biotech company that leverages its integrated AI-augmented drug discovery platform to decentralize the discovery of new and better medicines. He's passionate about building AI-augmented technologies that enable researchers to make more strategic and informed decisions in healthcare and life sciences. Naheed was named by the Technology Innovators as one of the top 50 healthcare technology CEOs of 2019. Now let's hear what he has to say.
Hi, my name is Naheed Kurji. I'm a co-founder, the president, and CEO of Cyclica, a Toronto-based neo-biotechnology company that is building the biotech pipeline of the future. We operate in the very exciting intersection of computational science and drug discovery and what is known globally as AI in drug discovery. While there are over 200 AI and drug discovery companies globally, Cyclica firmly believes that the intersection of technology, science, and humanities is where we will demonstrably change the way in which medicines are discovered for patients. And as such, we're not just another AI drug discovery company. For Cyclica, we believe that we will be the AI company for the future. A little bit about the company. We've been operational since 2014. All the technology that we have built over the past 7 years has been developed, patented here at Cyclica. We're not an academic spinout, though a vast majority of the Cyclica team are educated here in Canada and largely in Ontario, with the epicenter of AI being here in Canada and here in Toronto, between the University of Waterloo and all the way up into Montreal with the University of Montreal and McGill University. And we believe that Canada, the vectors of influence for artificial intelligence and in life sciences are pointing up to where we locate ourselves. We have a growing team right now of over 30 employees. And just this week, we announced the close of our Series B round of financing of $23 million. And with that round of financing, we are continuing to hire the best, the brightest, and the most committed people in our industry to push the frontiers of innovation, not just scientifically, but commercially. And on this slide right now, you can see some of our team in a picture that was taken not too many months ago. And so we're very excited about the growth that we have ahead of us. What I'd like to do is to walk you through an example as to why we are in this business and what's the opportunity for patients when new technologies can accelerate the quality of innovation in the making of medicines. So I'd like to, prior to going through that, I just want to capture, I'm going to go back, I apologize. So very quickly about the company, we've been operational since 2014. All the technology has been developed here at Cyclica in Toronto. We're not an academic spinout, though a vast majority of the Cyclica team are educated in Canada and largely in Ontario, given that we believe that the beltway between the University of Waterloo and all the way up to McGill University in Quebec is the epicenter of artificial intelligence and life sciences. And so we proudly located ourselves right in the heart of that in Toronto, Ontario. We have over 30 employees and we're growing very fast, given that just this past week, we announced the close of our Series B round of financing of $23 million. And we are continuing to invest in attracting and retaining the best, the brightest, and the most committed scientists and business people in our industry to push the frontiers of innovation, not only scientifically, but also commercially. And we've been recognized as one of the top 100 AI companies in the world, with us being recognized as the only AI healthcare company on this list in Canada. We've also been recognized as one of the top 20 AI drug discovery companies globally, as well as Canada's most innovative AI-based drug discovery company in 2020. And what I'd like to do is walk you through an overview as to why this industry is important and why innovation is both exciting, but also very challenging. Now, we're all patients, each one of us. And for this example, we've created a patient by the name of Alexis. Alexis is diagnosed with a heart condition. Alexis goes to the doctor, and the doctor prescribes Alexis with the standard of care medication for that heart condition. Alexis goes home and hopefully adheres to the medication regimen, and that medication does what it's supposed to do when it enters the body. It absorbs, it distributes, it metabolizes, and then it excretes through the body. And as the medication is traveling through the body, it's doing a number of things. And while it's helping Alexis with his heart condition, it's also interacting with other parts of Alexis's body that are creating potential side effects. And in this situation, Alexis suffers from some severe abdominal pain. Alexis goes back to the doctor, and the doctor suggests that the medication is causing liver toxicity, an uncommon but known side effect. The question is, how could this have been prevented? So let's talk a little bit about drugs themselves. A given drug is made up of molecules, and those molecules are designed to interact with a biological target in the body that is linked to the disease. In Alexis' situation, heart disease. You can think about the drug as a key and the biological protein target as a lock. And the drug is designed to interact very specifically with that protein or that lock. And by making this interaction optimal, it leads to some therapeutic benefit. And in Alexis' situation, it addressed the heart condition. But we know as patients that drugs do more than just one thing. And that's because when a drug is placed into a more complex biological system, a cell, animals, or humans, a given drug is interacting with dozens to hundreds of different protein targets. A given key opens up dozens to hundreds of locks. And many of those other locks are linked to biological side effects. And so the world of polypharmacology is critically important to understand in drug discovery. And for a very long time, polypharmacology was not accessible to computational approaches, especially with AI, because of the lack of data, the lack of compute power, and the lack of algorithmic development. And at Cyclica, we are the first company to bring together computational biophysics and artificial intelligence to help understand all the potential effects of a given drug when it's interacting with the biological protein targets in the human body. And we've built a number of platforms, specifically Ligand Design and Ligand Express, that are being used by world-class institutions globally to support the advancement of research in an effort to design better drugs for patients who are suffering from all sorts of diseases. And the way in which we've applied our platform to the industry is based on an idea, based on a belief, based on data that suggests that the future of drug discovery is in the hands of hyper-innovative research institutions, and biotech companies. And so we've created a partnership model where we spark new wave of innovation by partnering with early stage biotech companies and top tier academic institutions. And in doing so, we are creating the biotech pipeline of the future. We do this primarily because we've seen that the data is pointing towards early stage and emerging biotech companies taking up more of the early part of drug discovery. Big pharma companies, who we all know, are spending less and less time in upfront innovation and leaving that to earlier stage companies. And as more companies emerge in that space, what they're looking for are computational platforms to accelerate their research, to help them get to more proof points faster. And so we've shifted our thinking, instead of just working with multinational big pharma companies, to spark a wave of innovation with early stage companies. And just to close out kind of this conversation in terms of how we're going to create and capture value, we continue to work with multinational large companies through collaborations and licensing of our technology. They pay us up front, and there are milestone payments assigned to the work that we do. That's about 10 or 15% of our business. Where we have shifted more of our thinking is by working with those early stage and academic companies through equity deals, asset ownership, or royalties in the actual drugs themselves, or by partnering with later stage biotech companies and venture capital firms to create new companies through joint ventures. Through our partnership model on the left-hand side, we're in effect creating that biotech pipeline of the future and bringing those new innovation of upfront early stage innovation into the hands of later stage multinational companies to help progress the innovation into clinical trials. This pipeline is active. We are executing vigorously on this, and we have a deep pipeline across many therapeutic areas, including oncology, neurodegenerative, and mental health. And when I think about the impact over the past 4 to 6 months with COVID, we turned the scalability of our platform with the partnership model, and we created the Cyclica COVID stimulus plan. And with this stimulus plan, we opened up access to our platform to researchers and biotech companies all over the world, and provided in-kind, no-cost access to our platform to support their research in designing drugs or repositioning drugs for COVID. We've created over 20 different partnerships and 1 joint venture that are progressing fast in finding a solution with COVID on the back of our platform. So the COVID environment, at the end of the day, has caused a lot of grief and despair economically. But what it's done is it's turned a spotlight on the industry of the makings of medicine. And it's begged the question, how can we do this better? How can we do this faster? There's no silver bullet. This is not easy. But what it's done is it's enabled questions to be asked about how can we accelerate innovation? And that has been the catalyst to a lot of the work that we have done over the past 4 to 6 months since we kicked off the stimulus plan in January of 2020, I apologize. If you're interested in learning more about Cyclica, I'd be happy to answer any questions, comments, or you can contact me directly or follow us on LinkedIn, on Twitter, or you can contact me with my email address below. Thank you so much.
Okay, hi Martin, Naheed, and Steve. Thanks so much for being here today. That was a great presentation from both of you, Naheed and Martin. So 2020 really has undoubtedly been the toughest year for a lot of startup entrepreneurs. And capital raising was one of the hardest, one of the biggest challenge that we often hear from the community. And both of you have recently had some really good news in terms of your own capital raising. So I thought maybe we can, and this is what this panel is about. We wanted to get some firsthand stories, lessons learned, and then perhaps some secrets for success to share with our fellow entrepreneurs. So our first question here is, what is, during your, perhaps each of you can, talk a bit about, how you did the capital raise, and maybe one thing that that you're really glad you did, and perhaps if there's one thing that you wish you could change. So Martin, how about you get started?
Yeah, thanks, Jessica. Thank you very much for having me here, and Naheed and Steve. So happy to be with you guys in this session. We raised right middle of the pandemic when the market was just going down, so it wasn't any light at the end of the tunnel for anyone. So if you were looking at it, we closed last week of March, and right after we closed, things started getting a little better. It was probably the hardest things I've done ever as an entrepreneur, as an CEO, as a CEO for our company, because from one hand side, the market was just going down, and it was a lot of negativity going on, and a lot of companies were only doing layoffs, and people were just talking about literally that this is the end of world, which this can't be true. It's not the end of the world, but this is how the market was reacting to it, especially from the public market to the companies and mass layoffs. On the other side, I was looking at my business and my employees. I said, I can't to do something like that to my people. These people trusted me when they signed their contract to work for Applied World. And we came here for a mission, and COVID not going to change our mission. The only thing it does is actually increase our responsibility to grow faster and to help our students and schools and customers and our recruitment partners. So it was very stressful situation, but I'm so glad that I was able to do consulting with a lot of my good advisors, and I stayed very calm, even though internally it was very stressful, the whole situation. I didn't let it makes me to panic mode, and I thought straight. Even though it was hard, I had people with signed term sheet, backed up the table. We had people that kind of said, sorry, we're not going to make any further investment going forward. It was talking they were we were calling them to for investment, and some people were talking about, oh yeah, what's going to happen with LPs, and if the LPs start pulling back their monies from the fund. Thankful that none of those things happened in a bigger scale for the market, but at the time that we were raising, that was a thing. And maybe one of the things I could have done better was even to reach out to more people and be able to be more positive. And I remember one of the call that I had with one investor, and after I pitched to him, and he said, yeah, no, I'm not going to be able to fund you guys, and I want to even reserve what we have for my current portfolio. I talked to him so positive that after the call, he messaged me and said, oh my God, I love our call, even though it didn't happen for fundraising. But I'm so happy and I'm so energetic right now. I'm going to go help my portfolio companies. So it wasn't the greatest result for me, but it was good. If I go back, I would have been positive, more positive on every single of those calls. To at least give good energy to other people and it affects indirectly to other entrepreneurs.
Oh, thanks. Oh, absolutely. And in fact, I remember, we've known each other for a long time, and it was that positive energy at first, and that perseverance that attracted us to you guys. So kudos to you. Yes.
Thank you.
So Naheed, what about your experience?
Yeah, as I was listening to Martin speak, it resonated so strongly with just the emotions that I think every entrepreneur, CEO goes through at a point in their evolution of a company, of building a company. It's never simple. It's never straightforward. And even the most exhilarating and exciting and momentum building events, things can turn very quickly. And uncertainty can be created by an event like COVID, or it can be created by events that one just goes through naturally in the day-to-day business, deals falling through, competitive landscape changing immediately under your feet. And it's your response to that. It's your attitude to that. It's the way in which you don't let that one event define the company. And so as I was listening to Martin, the attitude, the response to the COVID environment saying, no, it is our moral obligation to continue to push forward. That's very much the way in which we've thought about Cyclica and the way in which we've dealt with the past 4 months. And if I reflect on the past 4 months, I'd say the past 6 years of our existence prepared us for this level of uncertainty. Of course, not in, nobody could anticipate COVID and its unprecedented nature. But when I say prepared, I mean more in terms of operating in an environment where we kind of expected the floor to fall from beneath our feet at any given time. And, in the world of artificial intelligence and computational biophysics for drug discovery, a highly non-trivial, very scientifically complex world where we are trying to bridge technology and life science and human behavior all within one to affect change in an industry that is about designing drugs for patients. For us, that has been a very difficult, arduous, but very productive and energizing effort. And so when I think about the past 4 months, and I say that the past 6 years have prepared us for the past 4 months, it's because we always kind of expected the floor to fall from beneath our feet. And so when I look at what allowed us to get to the close of our Series B round of financing that we announced just this week, it's a combination of a high degree of perseverance and resilience and tenacity, combined with just being obstinate to failure, refusing to fail, to look at your team and to say, these are people who joined, brilliant scientists from all over the world who joined your company because they believed in the vision, they believed in the culture, they believed in the science. And your goal is to ensure that they can continue to contribute. And so what woke me up every morning, whether it be the past 4 months, the past 6 years, is making sure that I fulfill my job so that they could do theirs. And, when I think about uncertainty, especially that which is highly unexpected and completely novel, it may feel natural as an entrepreneur, as a CEO, to create certainty through structure. And admittedly, I naturally felt that as well. But then I quickly realized, and supported by my advisors and my wife and family that were around us, rigidity in the face of uncertainty likely will be calamitous. It's like being pulled into a riptide. If you try and fight it, it's probably going to exhaust you and take you down. But if you respond and you adjust and you adapt and you think differently and you try something new while remaining calm and having that positive attitude that Martin suggested, that's when it allows you to try something new and to be viewed as that high tenacity, high persevering entrepreneur and company. And so when I reflect on our round of financing that we just closed, visionary investors who came behind us, who believed in the team, believed in our vision as a company, and even during the most tumultuous environment, which was COVID, they supported us. And I'll tell one quick story. On March 20, so we received term sheets towards the end of February. We're in discussions with a number of groups, a lot of interest. And then one by one, COVID environment, towards the end of February, beginning of March, whether it be in Asia and now in North America, people started to say, we're just going to watch and wait for a few weeks. Let's see what happens. And our lead investor, Drive Capital, I remember the conversation with the partner on the Monday, March 23rd, when the market was at absolute rock bottom. And I had a call with them that morning, signed, term sheets signed, going into definitive documents, and I expected them to pull the plug. And that weekend, I didn't sleep. That weekend, I was contingency planning. I was thinking, okay, what do we do? How do we get out of this? Because COVID's not going to let us fail, but I will understand if they need to take a pause. And here's what they said in return. They pick up the phone and said, Naheed, I know it's probably on your mind. Rest assured, we are absolutely behind you guys. We're going to ensure the success of Cyclica. We're going to ensure that you guys not only weather this, but you have enough runway for the next few years. We're completely behind you. And so, Jessica, to your question, and I know I've spoken a little bit, the one thing that we did well was we brought our entire team to the fundraising effort. It wasn't just one individual. We showed the bench strength scientifically and commercially of Cyclica and let our investors get to know us and let our team get to know our investors and made it a holistic exercise. The one thing that I wish I did a little bit better was I wish I was a little bit more bold, a little bit more visionary, a little bit more aspirational as to where we're going. And sometimes I talk about focusing on the steak, not the sizzle. I wish from time to time I was able to tell that story of the next 7, 10, 20 years on how Cyclica is going to guide that. But that's for the next round of financing.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm sure we're looking forward to that. So Steve, actually, having heard both Martin and Naheed talking from their founder's perspective, you're a co-founder and CEO of Wholesale Investor, which is one of our co-hosts of this event, and also you run one of the flagship platform in Australia, specifically designed to help private enterprises. So you must have seen many fundraising. In fact, on your platform, you have deal rooms that's going through. I understand, even through this tough period. So what can you? And then I know you have one session, your speech coming up. So without stealing too much of your thunder, what is some tidbits that you can give to us, to our fellow entrepreneurs here in Canada?
Sure. Look. So firstly, I apologize for whatever reason is unstable today, which we're not really sure why. But look, the main the most successful stories that we've seen during this time has been the founders that have really sort of not so much shied away from this period, but stepped up to this period. And from what we've seen on the platform, it's been really interesting to watch companies take one or two paths where you've got certain founders where they've decided to basically almost hibernate during this period and sort of bed down, where there's been other founders which have actually stepped up their sort of promotional activities, they've stepped up their visibility, and that seems to have really worked quite well for them. So for me, listening to those stories, it really sums up the exact experience that we've seen over here, where the strength of the founders, in the sense their own resilience, their own attitude, has actually made part of the biggest difference in how they've approached it.
Mm-hmm. So my next question, I guess, in terms of partners that you're looking for, being your shareholders, your potential venture capital, institutional investors, is there a theme that you guys see, like who during this period? I guess there must also be institutions and investors who do see this COVID situation as opportunistic, and also step up. right, to find the good deals and good companies such as Plyboard and Cyclica. So I'll maybe let you guys both all comment on it a bit. Do you see sort of a commonality in terms of who's what kind of investor, what kind of partners that you guys are seeing?
So I'll just kick off and say you mentioned the word crisis, right? The two sides of crisis, one being the problem, the other one being the opportunity. The problem is fairly obvious to everyone. It's the creation of the opportunity that, to me, I've seen the biggest difference. But from the investor's perspective, the biggest interest we've seen from their interest, from our sectors, has been obviously the platforms have done really well in this period. Healthcare and life science opportunities have also started to generate a lot more interest in this period as well. And then renewable energy has been another sector of strong interest.
Yeah, I'll jump in very quickly, and then Martin, if you want to take it from there. I'll keep my comments short. I think you can break down the investor community and those that have been active and those that have been a little bit more passive based on a phenotype oriented around three things. Number one is, where in their life cycle is their fund? If they're a fairly new fund and they have quite a bit of dry powder and they have not yet made an investment, then they're looking to make investments right now, versus some that may be later stage and they have a portfolio of companies. They may be buckling down and evaluating internal. The second will be industry. Those funds that are looking within the industries that Steve just mentioned, especially healthcare and life sciences, which I know, I can only comment really on what I know right now, but generally in the industries where the COVID has created opportunity. And opportunity is not a negative word. I think opportunity, we need to be able to talk about it so long as we leverage that opportunity in an ethical way and do the right thing in this environment. Those firms that seize the opportunity in industries that are thriving are continuing to invest pretty vigorously. And then the third will be, who are the companies in which they're investing in? Are these companies that are able to extract value from this COVID environment? Or are they companies that are simply trying to remain the course? And those venture capital firms that are fit within one of those three buckets, or all three, are the ones that are being active. And I'd also say, given that we're Canadian based, a lot of US based VCs have started to turn their attention into Canada, because in March, April, the dollar went from 1.30, 1.3 to 1.4. It immediately made a little bit more economical sense for them to come look at assets up in Canada, just because the exchange rate supported a return on investment of 10%, right, give or take, right there.
Yeah, great point. I think Canadian companies are like a new focus for a lot of VCs, and I just see this trend to just keep going up. A lot of people can see like how our country here, we are very immigrant friendly. We can bring talent from all over the world very fast. So, for example, to give a sense, if I see a developer, for example, in Russia or Brazil or any other country, from 2 to 4 weeks, we can have that developer sitting in our office for work visa, everything ready to be done, and that person can be there. Versus, for example, in south of the border in US, you see sometimes it takes years to be able to get someone. One of the things I like, both Steve and Naheed talked very well about the opportunities during this time. So I'm not going to go there. But one of the things that it was very interesting for me to see what type of VC I want to have in the future. We signed with Drive Capital. And I remember it was one of those days that market was slammed, like a public market, 6%, something like that was coming down. And people were talking about, I talked to Nick Solaro, the partner we have at Drive, and he said, "Oh, Martin, don't worry. We see things long term, and I just want to let you know that we are not those type of VC that even though we are not partner yet, and we haven't funded you guys yet. But don't look at us as type of VC that when some bumpy road comes, we leave our entrepreneurs hanging there. And to me, that was the greatest thing to see as a partner. And I think they bought their biggest portion of trust and respect from me during those times. I'm pretty sure a lot of VCs done that. And a lot of VCs also show the other way, that necessarily they're not the best partner for entrepreneurs when things goes the other way. I always tell people choosing the VC, if you have option. If you don't have option, you need to basically go always and get what it is. But as you guys know, they always say you cannot separate from your VC easily for 7 to 10 years. So you guys going to something maybe even more important than marriage. So choosing the VC, I think during this time is very, very interesting and would be good measurement for the entrepreneurs to see who are the long-term thinkers and who are the short-term thinkers. And for good companies, we always have options, and it allows us to be more selective, the right partner at the right time, at the right place. And I think events like this is what makes some VCs glowing forever. I will tell this a story of how this deal did get together for maybe another 10 years. So a lot of entrepreneurs seeing it and said, wow, Drive Capital, good partner. They backed their entrepreneurs on the bad time and when things were not going the best. Even though our product was on the product that it grown when COVID happened, but the uncertainty in the market was very, very bad. So kudos to them.
So I just want to add one comment to everybody who's listening to this. So you have two CEOs, entrepreneurs, both of whom met today kind of for the first time virtually. We've known each other kind of through the ether, both of whom have been funded by Drive Capital with two different partners, both of whom got the funding during an environment where a lot of other people were either losing term sheets or having to go stale on their fundraising cycle. And this is not just a thing about Drive Capital. This is a message about finding that right venture capital firm. Because if they can show commitment and an earnest truth to growing with you during this time, then this is a group of individuals who will have you even in, it doesn't get much worse than this. If their true colors are now, imagine what's going to happen when things are shining and there's big opportunities ahead. And that was one of the big pieces of the equation for us. Just like Martin said, and to anybody who's listening, don't just take money. Especially if you don't need to take that money, make sure you diligence the venture capital firm. Otherwise, you never know what is going to happen in 2, 3, 4, 5 years' time when there is a difficult situation and how their true colors will show up.
Absolutely. Thank you. Oh, that's, it is really, like Steve said, there's the two sides of the crisis, right? It is actually during a crisis when you see people's true colors, and it is those partners that can work together and do whatever they can to really go through the challenges that will be able to grow with companies until the shining point, and that's actually where our IMP Capital always would say is to grow with talents and technologies that will shape future, and and we want to help entrepreneurs with whatever we have and with all the resources and the connections that we have to foster growth and to eventually enjoy that success together. So that was great. So does anybody, Steve? Does anybody have any last comments? For our Canadian entrepreneurs or investors here that's listening.
I'll have one final part, and hopefully the internet doesn't have issue. But basically, what's really nice is all three of us as founders actually have international investors on our registries, right? So you guys mentioned you got a US shareholder. For me, I've got shareholders from 5 different countries. And you know what's becoming more and more interesting, I think, for whether you're a Canadian company or whether you're an Australian company, the opportunity to raise capital from international investors, I think, is becoming more and more prominent. So rather than just sort of, whilst we're looking for appealing investors in our own sort of countries, the opportunity for those international investors that can also be strategic partners and open potential opportunities for us in other countries becomes very interesting, because that investment capital or that strategic partner can make a big difference to the business going forward.
Absolutely. Yes. No, it is. This is probably one of the areas where, albeit all the uncertainty that's happening in the US, globalization of innovation, of technology innovation, and capital flow. Like you said, Steve, it's definitely going to only continue and grow. So with that, again, I thank you so much for being here, guys, and wish you all the success in your firm's continued endeavor.
Thank you, Jessica,
Thanks,
for having me. During this round, also INP was very supportive of us and also followed on, and it was really helpful. So thank you for that as well. And thank you very much for this great platform and having us.
It's my pleasure to introduce Steve Torso. Steve is co-founder and managing director of Wholesale Investor in CRISP, Australia's leading private investment platform with over 29,300 high net worth investors, fund managers, family offices, and industry participants. Knowledge gained through Wholesale Investor led to the development of CRISP, an end-to-end SaaS platform for raising capital, secondary sales, and direct investment. Steve is a thought leader for companies that are raising capital and has been a keynote speaker and panelist at a myriad of global events hosted by the Australian Stock Exchange, Macquarie University, the Department of Trade and Investments in the UK, UTS, the Queensland Government, Oz Biotech, Thomson Reuters, DLA Piper, PwC, and E27. His opinion pieces have been shared by the Australian Financial Review, BRW, Sydney Morning Herald, Startup Daily, Startup Smart, Smart Company, Sky Business, and Switzer, among many others. For those unfamiliar with Steve here in North America, he is clearly very well regarded and sought after throughout Australasia.
Thank you for the introduction, and I just want to say, obviously, thank you to the IMP Capital team for helping us to organise Emergence Canada. You know, for us, we're incredibly passionate about this space, and we're very proud to be able to present this conference to you. Everything we do is about creating opportunities. So, in my presentation, I'm going to be talking about what we see as the future of capital raising and venture investment. And as I go through this, you know, you can probably relate to your own experiences, whether it be from the investor side or from the company side. So to give you the context of where we're coming from, Wholesale Investor has been working with sort of startups and early stage companies now for over 11 years. In fact, we've worked with over 1,500 opportunities across private, pre-IPO, and also small cap listed. And we've built a distribution base to over 30,000 now high net worth and professional investors. And effectively, that's helped us become the leading platform in the Australasian region and also with distribution in the UK as well. So when we're actually speaking with investors, it's commonly, you know, investors will always say to me, Steve, I want you to introduce me to the good deals, right? So this is what investors want. The challenge is everyone has their own perception of what a good deal is. Everyone has their own thesis, their own investment strategy, and their own what they perceive makes up a good quality investment opportunity. When I meet with companies, right, on the investor focus, typically what they're always looking for, firstly, is that as you as an investor, you want access to opportunities, you want deals which are relevant to what you're interested in, you're looking for a streamlined and standardized process, because often you've got different deals coming from you in all sorts of different directions. But the most important thing you want speed to a decision. You want to receive information which helps you make a decision as fast as possible. That's what our understanding from working with investors over the last 11 years that you're actually looking for at a fundamental level. What companies want. When I get introduced to companies, the first thing they say is, Steve, I want you to introduce me to the good investors. Now, I can do that, but how do I know that investors are going to be interested in that specific opportunity? Because as I said, every investor has their different criteria. They have different things that they're looking for. So where does this matchmake happen of a relevant company with a relevant investor? Sometimes investors are looking for specific opportunities which they can add value in their specific skill set as well, right? So this is where this whole space becomes quite interesting. Now, when we had a look at this area, we thought, okay, where is capital raising right now? And then what does the future look like? To understand the future, it's important to look at the past, right? So in our version, capital raising 1.0 was really driven by personal networks, right? So in the simple model that advisors and corporate finance houses, they typically try and hold exclusively their so-called investor networks. And then what they make founders feel like, they make them feel like it's this mysterious dark art in which they can go and raise capital from their investor networks. And for that, you're going to pay a 6 to 8% fee. Now, the only thing that's really changed for most people, how they still operate in this space, is literally they added Excel spreadsheet and they added a data room. They added Excel spreadsheet and they added email to this. It is amazing how many investment banks and corporate finance groups are actually still driving their deals via emails and Excel spreadsheet. That still fascinates me to today, right? So that's capital raising 1.0. Now, capital raising 2.0 actually leverages the power of the internet. So as I mentioned before with data rooms, right? So typically it will add data room services to it, like whether it be Google Drive, Dropbox, but still fundamentally, a lot of it's been driven by email and Excel spreadsheet. What's been crazy about this has been the addition of platforms. So in recognizing the power of the internet, we've seen the growth in things like equity crowdfunding or investment platforms targeting, trying to work with investors. But what's amazing is these investment platforms are actually trying to charge like they are working like a professional service provider, right? They're trying to charge that 6 to 8% fees for an online introduction, which is completely illogical. What that means is the capital raising 2.0 is actually at conflict with the traditional and the current ecosystem that's actually working in this space. So what that means is the space is competing against each other. It's not actually being enabled. So when you look at the problems of capital raising today, effectively for you as an investor or for you as a founder, the investor attraction or the investment opportunity discovery is consistently frustrating, number one. Money and time is endlessly wasted in this area, and it's done without most people thinking about it, right? And you've got online platforms, as I said, charging 6 to 8%, which is illogical. There's legacy systems, there's no investor analytics, there's a lack of investor connectivity. Most people are operating off isolated solutions, as I mentioned, between Excel, email, potentially Google Drive, Dropbox, whatever it may be. And the ecosystem is fragmented. Everyone's trying to cover their own turf, right? So I found this really interesting when I started to look at this as an area. So that's the problem with capital raising today. From our perspective, capital raising 3.0 is subscription-based deal making, and it aligns with investor aggregation, right? If you look at the most successful technology companies on the planet today, what they've been able to do is successfully aggregate one side and then commoditize the other side. And in that commoditizing the other side, they're typically now it's been driven by the subscription-based modeling. So from our perspective, the aggregating of investors and the converting of subscription-based deal making is what will drive the future of capital raising, because it will then facilitate AI-driven matchmaking, frictionless engagement between companies and investors and industry participants, efficient transactions, which is high priority for this area. And then the providing of digital investment banking tools, which were previously only available to companies that were typically paying investment bankers $500,000 to $1 million in fees, right? This will now become available to startups and emerging growth companies because it's driven by software, right? So as I said, capital raising 3.0 learns from the successful companies that it's been investing into over the last few decades. So for me, when I look at this space, I see that the future of capital raising is AI-driven matchmaking, AI-driven capital raising. So it's got to be software-driven. The ecosystem has to be enabled, right? Because if the ecosystem is enabled, effectively what it does is it creates more opportunity, it creates more competition, right? Which is also important from both sides. It needs to be an end-to-end solutions, and it also needs to provide analytics, especially for the companies. The reality is for most founders, when they go to a capital raising, they actually really have no clue about what's most important for investors when they're going into that capital raise. They've got no analytics on the process whatsoever, right? So effectively what that ends up, the end result becomes improved efficiency for the companies. So instead of potentially speaking to 40 investors to get one, they may speak to 10 investors to get one because they're utilizing analytics in the process. For investors, it allows them to make faster decisions. If you can make a decision, whether it be yes or no, within 30 minutes to an hour, rather than 5 hours of meetings spread across 4 weeks, because you have access to the right information, structured in the way that you like it, that's what you want from an efficiency perspective. From the industry, it's streamlined processes, because what that means for you is instead of working on 6 opportunities this year, you've got the capacity to work on 10 or 12, which once again, it increases your income potential, right? So to us, that's the way we see efficiency in capital raising. And then the digital investment banking tools, what that means for startups or for early stage companies is that not only can they raise capital on one platform, but they can get integrations with it, be potentially SME debt, right? Deal syndication. So if you have one investor that comes into your company and they want to invite their other high net worth friends to participate, they should be able to seamlessly do that from one platform. Book builds, whether it be for private companies or small cap listed companies, should also be done from that platform. Investor relations, obviously the investor matchmaking that I talked about before. And then one of the biggest frustrations for the entire private and unlisted space, secondary sales. This should be done from platforms. This should be platform driven, and there should be utilizing the aggregation of investors to do this, right? So ultimately, from the analytics perspective, you start to get predictive insights, you get increased access to networks, but most importantly, you have additional bandwidth, right? And when we speak to companies about this, it's about how can you create more opportunities rather than lose revenue, have opportunity cost when you go into that capital raising mode. So if you think about it from a company's perspective, this is just an example, right? So when companies go into a capital raise, you typically answer the exact same question over and over and over again. So one of the tools we set up was a frequently asked question management tool. This allows the platform to answer those questions for you. So every time I look at this stat, and you see down the left-hand side, you've got highlighted the different times. For example, if you look at how do you explain the valuation, right? That is 35 times that I did not have to explain that question, that have to answer that question, right? So this is about efficiency. This is about investors seeing all the questions that other investors have asked beforehand and having those questions answered. From you, it's about being able to continue driving your business forward whilst the platform's taking care of this workload for you. From the investor application point, imagine if the actual share applications are auto-filled. Literally click a button, application filled, and then it's just a process of you actually signing it off. That is how it should be, rather than actually printing it off, filling out a form, signing it off, etc. It has to be simplified in every way. So in summary, the future investor investment and capital raising from our perspective is highlighted by 2 key areas: subscription-based deal making and investor aggregation, right? Because those 2 areas have to highlight that. It's got to be the AI, you have to use machine learning for the matchmaking, utilizing data for matchmaking, providing frictionless engagement, having efficient transactions so that it can be seamless for both the investors and the companies, and then the creation of liquidity potential down the track so that there can be buyers and sellers for unlisted companies. If you can create hope of the potential in unlisted companies being able to do secondary sales, there will be so much more investment come into private companies because there is that potential for a secondary sale. So the repeat I like to highlight is that Capital Raising 3.0 learns from the most successful technology companies that it has been funding to date. And to me, software will lead the matchmaking, it will lead the analytics. And when advisors think about what is their role going to be going forward, the role that advisors should play for is in the deal structuring, right? And the deal creation part. Software should drive the rest of the process. So in summary, that's how we see the future of capital raising venture investment. Now, look, for the founders that are sort of watching this, and even for the investors, I typically always like to provide sort of updates and content that are relevant to founders that are in the capital raising process or trying to sort of get more awareness about this area. So I highly encourage you to add me on LinkedIn. You can see my details there. I put my email up there, so I recommend you to add me. My name is obviously Steve Torso. Just simply put that into LinkedIn, add me on LinkedIn. And also I recommend for every investor and for every founder that are watching this, go and subscribe to CRISP, right? Because when you actually see the CRISP setup, we've actually set up in such a way that when an investor fills out their profile, it provides relevant matches. It provides them with a percentage as to why that is relevant based on their criteria that we're looking for. And this is only just stage one for us. We will be adding a lot more intuitive tools for both investors and companies going forward to really make that investment process and the capital raising process as efficient and seamless as possible. Because our underlying philosophy is, how can you provide a platform which helps all three sides, investors, companies, and industry participants, save time, save money, and improve efficiency? Once again, I'd like to say thank you to the IMP Capital team for helping us to create this opportunity for everyone. I'd like to say a big thank you to all the speakers that have participated for today as well. And I'd like to say thank you for your time in watching my presentation.
Great, thanks for sharing. Now, our next speaker, Russell, is the founder of InfoMoney Financial Planning with 30 years in the financial industry as a certified financial planner. In 1995, Russell became the first associate coach of Strategic Coach and is celebrating 25 years of inspiring entrepreneurial growth, leading past and present workshops in Vancouver, Toronto, and London. Russell is also the author of 21 Days to a Happy Heart and Discover the Joy of Extra Spending. Let's tune in to Russell.
Welcome, everybody. So pleased that you've chosen to attend this conference today, and I am absolutely delighted to be here and with an opportunity to provide some value to the conference. And just to give a little bit of context, so I'm here as an entrepreneur first and foremost, but I'm also here as a representative of Strategic Coach. I've been an associate coach with the program for a long time. And what the program does, along with so many other things, it basically helps entrepreneurs design their business and personal environment. And so I've titled the talk today, Designing Your Environment and the Ingenuity Space, in the spirit of being able to design environments that provide freedom as opposed to struggling and thinking that somehow willpower will win the day. And that's one of the reasons why I've started with the quote from Benjamin Hardy from the book Willpower Doesn't Work. If you don't shape your environment, it will shape you. And we're in the middle of COVID at the moment, and it sure as heck is having a time in terms of shaping the environment for us. And so that is the space that we find ourselves in. And so it really, I think, is important to figure out how we can take charge of the shaping of the environments for which we have control. So I do have a little quote in the morning, and this is a personal vignette with respect to myself. And I think it really represents what the topic is all about. And so this morning I achieved 2,704 consecutive days of exercising and journaling. I'm not bragging about that. It's just really a fact. The achievement would not be possible without intentional design of my daily environment. The result is crucial to my physical, mental, and emotional well-being, and it inspires my ingenuity. And just so you have the context on that, I spent 25 years before getting this going, where I had off and on attempts at exercise and journaling with not a lot of success, a lot of frustration. So it really feels good to be in this space, and I'm giving all the credit to the design of the environment. So today there are 4 environments in play. At the center is the personal environment, which I'm calling the ingenuity space. That's the space that you occupy, and that's the more important space of all the spaces today. The next space is your business environment. That can be problematic, as we'll see in a moment. There is the COVID-19 environment, which is problematic for sure. And then, of course, there is the emergence environment, which we're all striving to figure out how to create value in that particular space. So the danger of the business environment is being in your business 24/7, thinking and behaving and directing and getting caught up in the daily stuff in your business environment. So that's what we call working in your business. And to a certain extent, you're trapped there. So what Strategic Coach does is invites people to come 4 times a year to a one-day session, 4 times a year. And some people have been in the program for, 30 years. And what they do is they learn how to reinvent or redesign their business environment to be more responsive to what opportunities are outside, and also to be more responsive to their team members as well. And they work on free time. So one of the first concepts is free time, working only in unique ability, which is the best you in terms of your talent and energy, collaboration with your team, and ultimately having a self-managing company, which basically means you don't have to be there. You're just now, you can occupy that ingenuity space full time. So that's the environment you have full control of. Quote from Dan Sullivan with regards to what's going on right now, and I think it's very appropriate. Successful entrepreneurs do not control events, they control their response to events. So effectively, that's what we are doing, and that is what we are encouraging everyone else to do as well. In order to do that, you need freedom. In order to be ingenious, you need freedom. You need to be free from conditioned responses. You need to be free from daily business operations, and you need to be free to take time off, and most importantly, being free to ask questions and listen. But here's a typical default response. So if you're talking about responses, certainly what I think you can understand very quickly, most of the world is in the lower part of this circle, in the reactive zone, full of fear and uncertainty, and a great deal of helplessness going on. There is the creative zone, which is the resourceful zone. It's full of possibility, but also it's a very busy place as well, because there's lots of creative ideas, not only from those that you create for yourself, but everybody else who wants to give you suggestions about your life and your business as well. So I'm going to sort of illustrate this with a story, and you can decide whether you fit this particular profile or not. You're on your way, you're driving to a very, very important meeting, and you're in the middle of nowhere and you get a flat tire. And so what is the zone that you're likely to occupy? Well, I would say most people are going to go into the reactive zone, at least for a short period of time, and some never come out in their whole lives, let's put it that way. But in any event, you're going to go there, and what it looks like there is, okay, why didn't I leave more time? Why did I have to have a flat tire today? What's wrong with me? My world has come to an end. I'm done. I'm finished. Okay. And that's a little dramatic, but that's quite often, I think, where people go. And when you're there, it's really tough to get back into the creative zone. It's like a deer in the headlights. Okay. Everything shuts down, brain freezes, and it's really, really hard to even think of possibilities, let alone do them. So how do we change this default response? And my answer to that is you create some space. And the space is created between the two. So let's take a look at ingenuity, which could be the quality that is in that space. So ingenuity the quality of being clever, original, novel, or unusual, and inventive. So this becomes about you. It becomes about what you extract from the world. It becomes of how you see the world, and you bring your originality to that particular situation. So transformational response with respect to the flat tire. So now you have some space, and you got that space because when the flat tire happened, you said, okay, I have a flat tire. I'm not going to make it to the meeting on time. What are the possibilities? And that's the calmness with which you address that particular situation. So possibilities, you can reschedule, you can basically appoint somebody else to step in for you, or in the spirit of COVID and what we're doing right now, you have a phone, you could actually do a Zoom call and be at that meeting virtually and be able to participate as if you were there. So that then becomes what being calm, being in that space can allow you to be able to provide to yourself and to that result. Okay, let's come back now to the space. We'll widen up that space a little bit. And now you'll notice that it's only you and the emergence environment. All right. So therefore, 100% of you is now available to focus on how you're going to create value for the other side of COVID. So looking at a few of the words which are in the center, first of all, you're there. Free time. And whenever you take free time, you get rejuvenated, which means that you are fresh. And when you're fresh, you know what that's like. It's a heck of a lot easier to accomplish really, really great things. When you're thriving and have the attitude of thriving, you have everything you need, or you know where you can get it. Unique ability is all really about your best self. It's about talent. It's about energy. And it's about, the way that you look at the world and approach the world. Confidence, this is a can-do attitude, and it comes from experience. You would not be successful entrepreneurs if you did not have a long history of getting things done, no matter whether they're difficult or not. Being present, I would say, is probably the most important one as far as this space is concerned, because if you're present, then you're open to whatever shows up in the moment, as opposed to applying preconceived conditioned thinking to every situation. Well-being, happy, and healthy. Who doesn't want to be there? All right, let me finish the session with connecting with the little vignette that I started at the beginning, my 2,704 days of exercise and journaling. On the exercise side, how did I design my environment? Number one, first activity of the day, no exceptions. What's my equipment? My body. What's my space? Anywhere. And what's my time? 30 to 40 minutes. And what's the result? Pure and simple, it's endorphins, which are the happy drugs. And not only am I happy because I have done it, but I'm also happy because my body is full of drugs, which I didn't have to buy anywhere. On the journaling side, 3 pages, no exceptions. I journal about gratitude, and when you're grateful, there's nothing missing. I journal about what's meaningful. How do I create meaning for myself as opposed to expecting the world to create it for me? And celebration. Entrepreneurs very seldom celebrate what they've accomplished. It's more like, what's the next thing I can do? Celebration matters. And then I end the journal with 3 wins for the day. And I'm automatically set and ready to go as soon as that is done. What's the result? A lot of learning, a lot of thriving, and a lot of ingenuity. Thank you so much for...
Next, I'd like to introduce you to Jessica Wang, partner at INP Capital. Jessica has over 20 years experience in the Canadian finance industry, including 10 years as a regional sales manager at Franklin Templeton Investments. Jessica is also a CHFA charter holder since 2003 and is an expert in investment management, asset allocation, private public funds, commercial real estate, and private equity and venture capital investment.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. So glad to be here. My name is Jessica Wang. I'm a partner at IMP Capital. Today, I want to talk to you about how we grow with innovators during and post COVID-19. I'll start by giving a quick intro of who we are, our approaches and focuses, and some of the challenges and opportunities we see coming out of COVID. IMP Capital is a global venture capital firm that invests into talents and technologies that we believe will shape tomorrow. Our vision is to combine extensive investment expertise, our wide international network covering from North America to Australia to Asia and Europe, and our team's deep industry experience in empowering entrepreneurs to achieve best-in-class business and provide investors with extraordinary returns. Here's our core team. Coincidentally, right now our three partners are in 3 different continents. But this is living proof that globalization of technology, innovation, and capital flow is going to continue despite the devastation and uncertainty caused by COVID-19. Our focus is to invest out unicorns. And by that, we mean not only do we try and identify the technology of the future, but also, and perhaps more importantly, we help them connect into our ecosystem and resources globally and provide services, including the very important capital access all the way till a successful exit. So we have 2 series of funds, one focused on early stage tech companies in some of these areas. The other one is a late stage biotech pharmaceutical play with focus on global medical cannabis. So during this pandemic, many startup companies was facing serious challenges. Access to capital was, of course, the biggest problem, and cash flow, customer retention, and it boils down to simply just keeping their people together. And business development faced great uncertainty. And during this period, we have also observed some success from founders who have really done well to weather through the storm. And one of the key we thought that they've done is the open and frank communication between team members, between founders and their investors, between teams and their customers. So of course, another important area is cash flow management. You gotta keep raising the capital and set the right expectations and be prepared to work harder. And be brave to raise hands to your shareholders and investors for help. In fact, some of the really successful raise this past months that we have participated in were from existing portfolio companies. And then, of course, embrace the new normal for the ways of doing business. Now, as investors, you have got to chip in and help the investee companies through these difficult times. And again, that communication, the proactive communication is key. Using our networks and connections to help portfolio companies to access to capital. We work with
them to develop creative funding solutions and creative business solutions, as well as trying to find new markets that creates that extra revenue and cash flow. Further capital injection, and then promote investee companies wherever and whenever you can. Well, when we think about what COVID really will change our world, our industry, we think we actually saw recently some more and more good quality companies with very reasonable valuation, which provides significant advantage for VC investors to pick up the good deals. Well, the general economic recovery will probably take longer than expected, with many ups and downs throughout the way. Well, startups, I think in general, will have to rethink their cash burn model and their business development approach. However, capital market access will be open and active quicker than expected, we think. In fact, we're already seeing trends of that. So through this, many traditional industries will go through digital transformation. And that, we think, spells opportunity and innovation. So really, when you think about it, COVID-19 is a catalyst. It's moving many industries towards digitization, towards cloud computing, and there is no going back. So I highlight opportunities in some of these areas, such as healthcare sector, including telehealth, drug discovery and repurposing by using AI. And these are some of the areas that we're paying very close attention to, and we think many more successful, innovative companies are going to come out. Robotic applications, including manufacturing automation, warehouse management, and logistics. Online communication, whether being business, education, recreational. Fintech and digital banking this is one of the probably most traditional and most significant industry that is going through huge transformation, and COVID only pushed it to move towards that goal faster. And of course, social influencer marketing. In this area, if you look at China, it's probably at the forefront with their phenomenon new industry, entire new industry with live broadcast platforms with online sales, and combined with an entire supply chain behind. So that said, we think that there are things that will not change after COVID, whether we're going through economic ups and downs. There will always be a pattern of successful innovators, and that's what, as investors, we look for. First of all, you got to be in a wide enough and the rising track, meaning the industry that you're in really has to have great significant growth ahead of it. The team, the founders, need to have clear goals and visions based on deep understanding of their customers' pain point. They got to be passionate and dedicated towards their goals. I sometimes often joke in this past few months, we've been working with companies, portfolio companies, our partners,
throughout the clock over various different time zones and day and night, and that's the kind of team that that we are, and we would like to work with. You got to be able to identify key trends and respond decisively and swiftly, even if it means that you are having to change course, give up your existing course, or stay on but reinvent yourself. And lastly, but most important, successful innovators, in our eyes, they are always evolving. They're always learning. They're always thinking, and they're always coming out with new iterations and better iterations of their business. And that is, we think, the true secret sauce for success. So with that, I thank you. If you have any questions about our firm, about the companies that we've worked with, feel free to send us an email or check out our website.
I hope you've enjoyed Emergence Canada. As I said, this is our first step. This is an inaugural event. Our ambition is to host this live in 2021. I'd like to say a big thank you once again to the INP Capital team to helping us make this event real. So Jessica, Stephen and Jackie, thank you very much. Second, I'd like to say I thoroughly enjoyed my panel session with Martin and Naheed. And from a founder's perspective, the philosophy, the attitude, the belief of those kind of guys is exactly what helps build an ecosystem. When you have success stories like them as founders, it inspires other founders to go on to do great things. And for the ministers, the ministers involved and having the Canadian government involved in this as well is something that's empowering for us, because government plays a significant role in this entire area. And the way I've always loved to communicate is as founders, we don't want government to do everything for us. What's just beautiful if you can open a door. It's our job to go and drive through that door and make magic happen. But when opportunities get presented to ourselves, that's what makes our lives easy as founders, because we will work day and night to make that magic happen. And so as final to say, thank you so much for being a fantastic audience. We've loved being able to bring this to you, and we look forward to hosting this for you live at some stage in the future. Thank you.